Maddie here. As promised in my last video, we are now going to talk about some of my favorite series. For those of you that didn't watch my last video, we talked about series that burned me. Got a little heated. But this time we're talking about all of the wonderful series that we love so much. I have my stack of books here to show you, and I'm trying to decide where I want to start. I think we're gonna follow the blog and follow last time where we talk about kind of most popular to least popular in terms of just well known. And this one's gonna get all the people that are just all gonna agree. It's the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. Those of you that don't know, there's the Percy Jackson and the Olympians is the first Percy Jackson series, and then there is the Heroes of Olympus, which is the second Percy Jackson series. Now, to be fair, obviously the second series is not just Percy Jackson. So this one has 3 main characters, obviously the first one being Percy, and then Annabeth and Grover. The other series, I think, has 9 main characters. Okay, yeah, so they are both Camp Half-Blood Chronicles. They are in the same... So Percy Jackson and Olympians is the first 5, and Here's Olympus is 6 through 10 of the Camp Half-Blood Chronicles. Fun fact. Forgot about all of them. Okay, so yes, you've got Percy, Annabeth, Grover, Leo, Jason, Hazel, Frank, Nico, and what is her name? I cannot remember her name, but she's so annoying. Piper. So Piper, she's not the worst in this series, but she's the worst in the next series after Heroes of Olympus, which is Trials of Apollo, which has to do with the god Apollo. I only read the first book and I couldn't continue. That is so not the point here. But in my blog, I only include Percy Jackson and the Olympians and not Heroes of Olympus because they are technically 2 different series, although they are both awesome sauce. Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Here's what I want to say. Well, I obviously want to say a lot of things. 1, I haven't finished the series on Disney, so I can't give my 2 cents on that, although I've heard good things for the most part. I know people have like small comments here and there, which they're always going to have, but I've overall heard very good things about it. And from even like creators that I really like and really enjoy have said good things about it. This series starts with a 12-year-old and ends with a 16-year-old. Something that I feel is done well with not just this, but you'll also see this with the Harry Potter series. The first book is so obviously meant for a younger audience. It has a young main characters. It is more simply written. The conflict is easier to understand. But by the time you get to the last book, it is definitely for an older audience because the author kind of wrote the books to grow up with the people reading them. And the thing is, none of these books, I don't read them and be like, oh my gosh, that's so juvenile. Like, I don't read them and be like, oh my gosh. And it's like, yeah, they have moments where it's like, yeah, you're acting like a 12 or 13-year-old, but they're never these moments of like, this is impossible to read because they're so immature, like I can't get through it. They're young, but that's it. That's it. Totally good, totally worth reading. Oh my gosh. When I got to the last book, which is The Last Olympian, this is a thing I feel is very common, especially in series, because there's so much buildup. You often get to the last like third of the last book and there's no good stopping points. It is one big battle, one big conflict, one big whatever the kind of book you're reading. It's usually a battle. So I got to that point in this book and it was probably like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, I'll find a stopping point. I didn't finish reading till it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, but like I couldn't stop. You have to just keep reading and it's so good. Absolutely fell in love with these books. Fell in love with Percy and Annabeth, especially. Personally, my favorite character is Nico. I love him. He's precious. He is my baby, and I love him. He's just a dark little angsty child. I don't know. I love him. He gets introduced in one of the later books, but you've got to read all of them because so many important people are like introduced and you learn so much and the world building is amazing. Character development, incredible. Conclusion is one thing I love about Rick Riordan is I feel he does such a good job of taking a series and actually completing it. Like you get to the end and you aren't sitting here being like, okay, well, what about that one random subplot that you just like never finished? Or like, this doesn't actually make sense. You're just like making stuff up to complete the story. No, it feels very thought out, very purposeful. Each 5 books serves a purpose and is just so good to the character development, the plot development to get you to this conclusion that you get to at the end of the 5th book, but it's all worth reading. It's all worth getting you there. So I highly recommend this book. It's super cool because it follows. So we're just skipping all over the place. I actually did this really badly with the last video, I didn't actually describe the series to you at all. I just talked about why they were awful. Hopefully that's fine. We're going to probably just have the same issue with this one, but it follows Percy Jackson, who is a demigod, who doesn't know he's a demigod until the first book. And the whole idea of the Greek gods still very much being around, they just adapt to society, which is why they look different. So like Olympus is at the top of the Empire State Building in New York, which is apparently the center of Western civilization, which I can't say is wrong, to be honest. And so it's just this idea of demigods and the Greek gods and them existing in our world and them affecting things. And it's super cool and it's very good. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. I've read them all the way through, I think 3 times. One of the times I read all 5 books out loud to my husband. It took us a few years, but we got through all of them. We would, on all road trips, we would just read. And we're still doing this. We're currently reading the Aragon series, and we actually just finished the first one. We'll be moving on to the second one here whenever we have our next road trip. First series, that is, every single book is amazing and worth reading. Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It's amazing. Tell me who you think your Greek god or goddess would be your parent. Because obviously it follows demigod. Okay, this next series, I am ashamed to say that I only actually own the first book because I stole them from my sister when I was reading them. Original. The first copy of the Percy Jackson books that I carried around with me were my sister's. I stole them from her, and as I slowly bought them myself, I returned them to her, which is what I'm currently doing with the Heroes of Olympus. As I buy them, I'm returning them to my sister, being like, here you go, I bought one for myself. For this next series, and the only reason I have the first one is because my parents have 2 copies, or my sister has 2 copies, and I stole one of them. So the second one, we're just showing the first one, but it is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa, Meyer. Now these books, when I started them, I made a comment in my last one about how I don't like reading series that have not been completed. This series had not been completed. So it's 4 books and the first 3 had been published, but the next one was coming out in like the next year. So I was like, I have 3 books to get through. This one is the smallest one. They just get bigger. So it's really not that long of a book, just under 400 pages, and they just get bigger. So I was like, I can read these 3 books, and by the time I'm done with the 3rd book, the next one will be out. And it worked out great. This series, dystopian future retellings of fairy tales, and it's so good. It's so good because it has fairy tales, but they're not like word for word that fairy tale, but just with cyborgs or in space or whatever, because it's called the Lunar Chronicles. There's like this whole conflict between the moon and the earth. It's very good, but it has the kind of skeleton of these fairy tales, but they're very much, what I love is all the female characters are like super empowered and really awesome. You still get these great romances and just super cute moments, but they're not super romance heavy. Like Percy Jackson is not romance heavy in any way, shape, or form. They're, in terms of like standard Maddie books, they aren't going to follow the like chick lit, cutesy, whatever romance books. No, they're action fantasy novels. There's romance way towards the end when they're older. These books have more romance than the Percy Jackson books, but they are also older and they're retellings of fairy tales. So if you didn't have it in there at all, it'd probably be weird. But it's Cinder, which is Cinderella. She's a cyborg, so you get this really cool cover where you actually see like her bones and stuff, because they're not bones, they're like metal. You get Cinder, which is Cinderella, Scarlet, which is Little Red Riding Hood, Cress. I don't actually know where the name Cress comes from. Besides, like, obviously it's a character's name, but I don't know, because Cinder makes sense for Cinderella and Scarlet makes sense for Little Red Riding Hood, but Cress, it's Rapunzel. I wonder how those go together. And then I guess the other one doesn't make sense either, but it's Winter and it's Snow White. Winter is like huge. It is like a ginormous book, but with each book, you were getting introduced characters. So in the first book, you've got Cinder and Kai, which is her love interest. In Scarlet, you have Scarlet and, it's just called Wolf. You have Cress and Captain Thorn. It's funny because, like, I don't know. Well, I guess like you've got, Flynn Rider, and you get a better idea of what this like guy is supposed to be. Because I guess in the original Rapunzel, isn't the guy a prince? He's not a prince in this version. Not even kind of. And obviously the Little Red Riding Hood, or the love interest is the wolf. But he's not like a wolf, but he kind of is. But it's the future, and it's very interesting, and it's very good, but not like weird. Don't make it weird, guys. Don't make it weird. Cinder and Kai, Scarlet and Wolf, Cress, Captain Thorn. I'm pretty sure he's just called Thorn. And then the last one is Winter, and it's her guard, but what's his name? Jason, but it's spelled Jacin. Don't know how I feel about that. I'm not the biggest fan of weird spellings, but if I can still look at it and know what it is, then I'm like, I can get over it, basically. So Winter and Jason. Each book gets, and I feel like this is like a normal progression of series, especially as each book just gets bigger. And so by that last book, it's ginormous, but you're also following 8+ characters. But it's so good and so amazing. Cinder is awesome. To be fair, Scarlet is my least favorite of the characters. It probably goes Cinder, Winter, Cress, Scarlet, personally. Every book is awesome. This series is incredible. Retelling fairy tales, dystopian future with amazing, incredible, strong, empowered female leads. One of those things where it's like, I love the empowered female leads, but not the ones that are like, I don't know, not obnoxious about it, but they're just like, they are just strong female leads. They aren't trying to be strong female leads. Like, they just are. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense if you know what I'm talking about. But this series is super incredible, super amazing. I know I've read it all the way through at least twice. I think I've reread Cinder more than that, but I always get daunted by how big Winter is. So I don't think I've reread it more than twice. Lunar Chronicles, so good. I would love for them to do a movie adaptation. I don't know if that's going to happen. So there's our second series. Our third and final series, and this is the one that outside of like my family or people I've shown it to haven't known what it is. Like the Imposter Queen series, it's like, this is a great series that, as far like, obviously people know about it because it exists in the world, but it is not well known, not often heard of or talked about, and that is Imadoki. It is a manga, and part of why I included it in my blog and why I want to include it in this video is because I want to broaden your horizons. If you are looking to introduce another type of reading, aka manga, into your kind of reading repertoire, things that you've looked into and ingested and partaken in. But yeah, so if you're looking to expand your knowledge of different kinds of reading and different kinds of books, this is a great place to start for mangas. So it's about a girl that moves to Tokyo to go to high school, and it follows her making friends and growing up and living in the world. Unlike the other two, it has no fantasy elements to it at all. It is just a slice of life, cute high school. It's got romance, but it also has just such good friendships. It has really good friendships. I love it. It has some really funny, great moments. It has some very serious moments. It's just really, really cute, really, really good. Something I love about manga. One, you can still get manga books from your library. Literally on Friday, got a manga book, ebook that is now on my Kindle from my library. You do not need to go out and buy 5 books. You don't have to do that. Like with any of these series, if you want to go out and buy them, they're totally worth it. They're not going to burn you. They're worth owning and reading. But you don't want to buy all those books. Go to your library. Use a library. They probably have them. If you don't, you can always request them from a different library, and your library will get them from that other library. So go to the library and get them. 1. 2, being manga, it only takes about 30 minutes to read each of these books. So 2.5 hours to read the entire series. It's mostly pictures. It's mostly pictures with words, but it's mostly pictures. So they don't take long to read. So what's good about this is being an introduction to manga is, 1, it's going to help get you into that format of, 1, mostly pictures, but 2, because it's Japanese, it is backwards. And they always tell you that it's so funny. So each book starts at the end. You open it the other direction, the way you want to read it is, it says, hey, you're reading in the wrong direction. Because they know that that's not how we read books. So getting used to the format of mostly pictures with some words, but also reading backwards. This is a great series because there are other great mangas out there that are like 50 books long. And that's a commitment. That is like a serious commitment to finding those books, getting a hold of those books. Even when you have things like libraries, that's still a huge commitment and a lot. So for a first manga experience, I highly, highly, highly recommend this. It's Imadoki. I will have it in the comments how to spell it, but it's Imadoki. I don't know what that word means. I should know that. I don't. I have no idea what that word means. Why it's the title. I just know that it is. It has an exclamation point in the title. So that is my third series that I have. In my blog, I talk about honorable mentions. Those honorable mentions are, I do have one of them. So the Traitor Kiss series, which I've actually done a video on that I will link below. It is a very, very good series. They are also some of the prettiest books that I own. I need to get the first book, which is The Traitor's Kiss, in hardback just so that I have them all in hardback. This is one of the exceptions to the rule in that I read the first book when the other 2 books had not come out yet. And then I got the books as they came out in hardback because they're so pretty. I'm honestly a paperback girly, to be honest. When I read, I like doing this or just having the flexibility in terms of how I'm reading, like position and whatever. With hardbacks, you just have a lot less options. So this goes on my honorable mentions, not because they're bad books, but because, here's my spoiler for this. 1 important person dies in every single book. Obviously not the main couple, but an important person dies in one important person dies in every single book, making them very hard to reread. But they're very pretty, so I own them. Other honorable mentions I talk about is The Selection, which is it's like The Bachelor meets dystopian future, and it's very cute, very good. But my biggest issue and the reason I don't reread that series very often is it has a love triangle, and I despise love triangles. I despise love triangles with like everything in me. I hate them so much. So that series I really, really like, but it does not go on my top tier list for that reason. And my third one was that, well, not even the third one, but I say on there, the reason the Harry Potter series is not included in this is because one, I think Harry Potter and Percy Jackson mirror each other in a lot of ways. And I think you're either like a Harry Potter kid or a Percy Jackson kid, even though I did not read Percy Jackson until I was like 21. They were still awesome at that age. I'm now 30 and they're still awesome. But with the Harry Potter books, which were published earlier, I honestly don't even know if I wasn't allowed to read them because I don't think I ever asked or tried to read them. But by the time I was actually interested in reading them, the movies had they'd like started coming out. I saw the movies as they came out, starting with the 6th movies when I went to midnight premieres. But this is one of my don't come for me. I've never actually read the 7th Harry Potter book because I was reading them and I couldn't get myself to read it because I felt like the movies were really good. And I do love that world. I've been to the Harry Potter world at Universal Studios twice and loved it every time. I would love to go back again, but I don't need to read 7 books to get into that world. And that goes against everything in me as a reader. But I'm like, I would just rather watch the movies, which is so terrible. But I guess I have to have some example of that. So that's why I don't include the Harry Potter series, is because I cannot, in good faith, recommend a book series that I have not read every single book of. So don't come after me. Just love me for the books that I have read. Those are my top tier books series being Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lunar Chronicles, and Imadoki. My second tier series being the Traitor's Kiss and the Selection. There are other series in there. There are other series I have read, but those are the ones we're going to go with because they are what I put on my blog and they haven't really changed. Those are still my top tier series. My second tier series are very second tier. They're not like books that I'm just going out and being like, you must read these. If I can do it, I will link. There is a selection recap. It's 2 videos and they are so unhinged and amazing. And even if you're not going to read the books, you should watch those videos because they are hilarious. They're so funny. They're so funny. I have a rainy day playlist for bad days, and those recaps are on that playlist on YouTube because they're so funny and so great and I love them. So if you're in the mood for good series, you have now gotten all of the recommendations. How many books is that total? You've got 5 for Percy Jackson, 4 for the Lunar Chronicles, which puts us at 9, 5 for Imadoki, which puts us at 14, 3 for the Traitor's Kiss, which puts you at 17, 3 for the Selection series, which puts you at 20 total book. That could be all you're reading for the year, or maybe multiple years, depending on how much of a reader you are. If you read any of these series, please let me know if you read these series and agree, or if you've read these series and don't agree, or you've read other series that I should read. Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. All those things are super duper duper appreciated, and I love knowing thoughts and opinions so much, because as much as I love talking about my personal opinions, I love knowing other people's opinions, because that's part of what makes being a reader so much fun, is getting other people's opinions. I love reading reviews on books, especially books that I'm about to read. I love getting recommendations. I love knowing your thoughts. So let me know. With all that, you've got some reading to do. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great night, a great week, great weekend, great month, great year. I hope you have all the greats because you're truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, says yeah. Bye.